What's up YouTube? Capital G here, looking at a new archetype from Shining Victories called the Digital Bugs. At least I think that's what it's going to be called in the TCG. I think the OCG name might be the Electronic Light Worms, but I'm pretty sure Digital Bugs will be what Konami probably uses in like the TCG. They're interesting because they're kind of like a cross between Yang Zings and Burning Abyss. They're similar to Yang Zings because even though they're XC based, which is a little different than Yang Zings, those are synchros, they kind of like when you use them to go into XCs, they empower your XCs with different effects. So that's directly related to something like a Yang Zings. And then they're kind of like Burning Abyss because much like Burning Abyss, they are XC based and all of their monsters have the same attribute, level, and type, which Burning Abyss does, except like when you get to like the ritual and the synchro and whatnot. But everything else in Burning Abyss, like the main monsters that go in the deck, they're all like, you know, they're level 3 Fiend and Dark. Well, these guys are level 3. They're all insects and they're all light, which I mean Shining Victories is trying to push a lot of light stuff. I mean, they're pushing Blue Eyes, so it kind of makes sense. So anyways, we're going to quickly look through this archetype. They've got 3 different XCs, and they've got 1 trap, a field spell, and 3 different monsters right now. So I think as of right now, it's about 8 cards for the archetype, which that's not bad for kind of like a kickoff to a new archetype. All right, so the first card is Digital Bug, Web Soldier, and I'm not going to read some of these effects again because they're built into every single monster. It's kind of like how Burning Abyss, every time if you have a non-BA, like all the Burning Abyss monsters blow themselves up. Well, every single Digital Bug has this effect so far. Cannot be used for an XC summon except the XC summon of an insect type monster. So if you are running these guys, you pretty much have to commit to this deck. I don't really think that you're going to be able to like splash these in to like another deck or something. Like you got to commit these to their respective deck. This guy is light, he's level 3, he's an insect, and he's an effect. That's going to be for all of them. 500 attack, 1500 defense. First effect says once per turn, you can target 1 attack position monster you control, change it to defense position, and if you do, special summon 1 level 3 insect type monster from your hand to defense position. At first, I was like, this effect seems okay. You know, it lets you basically open up plays from special summoning from your hand, but a lot of this archetype works on changing things from like attack to defense and changing things like vice versa. So this effect is actually, like it comes in handy a lot when you look at some of the other cards. Effect number 2, and I'm not going to read this one again because it's built into all of them. An XC monster that was summoned using this on the field as XC material gains this effect. If it is XC summoned, the defense of all face-up monsters your opponent controls becomes 0, and if they do, change them to defense position. This is really good because it helps you get over like really high-level monsters or high-attack monsters, things like Ignister Prominence or Dart Destroyer, especially like cards that can't be targeted like Magispectors and whatnot. Those are really difficult to get over when you got Forerunner and whatnot. This card kind of creates everything equal, and it makes it so your other monsters can run them over. So this is really, really good. Next card up is Digital Bug Centipede. Effect number 1. Once per turn, when this attack position monster is changed to defense position, you can special summon 1 level 3 insect monster from your deck in defense position. First things first, this would trigger off of this guy's effect. So Web Soldier and Centipede already work together. Secondly, it can get itself, which I think is kind of crazy because that's kind of something that Konami has taken out of the game. Like no monster can kind of search itself. No monster can special summon another copy of itself in an archetype. So this guy can search itself. I think Magispector Raccoon is like a weird outlier, but this one is, I guess, 2. And then this is the XC Enhance effect. Oh, by the way, this guy is 1500, 500, so he's got the reverse stats of Web Soldier. An XC that you use with this guy as material can attack all defense position monsters your opponent controls once. So essentially, if you use this and this, if you use a Centipede and a Web Soldier to make one of the XCs, you get to change every monster your opponent controls to defense mode. All of their monsters become 0 defense, and then you can run over every single one of them. It becomes like a Susono Wu, basically. Except that Susono Wu that your opponent can't, like, they can't use, if they've got a Forerunner, they can't be like Honest or anything like that. It's just, they pretty much just get wrecked. So, seems really, like, OP against Cosmos, because they play, like, Honest, and they do a whole bunch of other stuff, but none of that works if your monsters are in defense mode. And then the last monster, Digital Bug, Cocoon Denser. And this one says once per turn, if this attack position monster, if this card is in face-up attack position, you can target one level 3 insect monster in your graveyard, change this card to defense position, and if you do, special summon that monster in defense position. So basically, this is the archetype's Wolfbark, and I like the fact that you can just use the effect right away. Even crazier is the monster that you get still gets its effect, and it can be a copy of this card. So like a Cocoon Denser can actually get another copy of itself that's in the graveyard. So I mean, these guys aren't statistical powerhouses, but their effects are pretty nifty. By the way, his attack is 2000 defense, so he is like a little wall, kind of like Scarm was or Farfa was for Burning Abyss. And then the Xyz enhance effect is if you use this guy as an Xyz material, if your Xyz monster attacks a defense position monster, your opponent cannot activate spell, traps, or monster effects to the end of the damage step. So basically, your Xyz becomes Armades as long as you attack a defense position monster, but you see that obviously this one turns all monsters to defense position. So the first thing I thought about was this with this archetype is clearly this deck is made to make rank 3s, and it's clearly meant to like hate on monsters in defense position, and you can change them manually. So I was like, why not play lose a turn in this deck? Like force your opponent to, if they special summon, put their monsters in defense position, and then you can just capitalize off of that. You know what I mean? Maybe you have one of your Xyz already on the field. You know what I mean? Well, I guess you'd have to have lose one turn, but maybe you summon it, it survives, and then you can just kind of cause havoc. So lose one turn might work in this deck really well. All right, so this is the first Xyz. This is Digital Bug, Scar-dator. It's rank 3. Here's what it looks like. We're gonna go with this guy, and this guy. It requires 2 or more light insect type monsters. The first effect says once per turn in each player's turn, quick effect for the win. You can detach 2 Xyz materials, then target one monster your opponent controls. You change the battle position of that monster, and if you do, you negate its effects until the end of the turn. The second effect is once per turn, when this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle and sends it to the graveyard, you get to attach that monster as Xyz material. I think the first effect is really good. It's kind of like it's like a better version of Giant Hand, to be honest, because not only does it take out, like, let's say your opponent summons Scroll Combat Joker. Okay, you get to negate it, but then you also put that monster in defense position. So it's like a much better version of something like Giant Hand. The second effect is pretty good. It's not so good against pendulums because they don't go to the graveyard, but against everything else, it should be really good. Just, you know, you detach, and then for its first effect, and then hopefully you run something over, and you can basically take that monster and attach it to your bug. And who knows, maybe your opponent wants to summon it back or something like that. The next card in with these Xyz, because at first I was like, well, if all of them are level 3, like, how are they going to summon a 7 and how are they going to summon a 5? They rank themselves up. But unlike Raid Raptors, they don't have to use a bunch of like crappy rank up cards or whatever. These guys can inherently rank themselves up. They're kind of like Constellars, essentially. It requires 2 or more light monsters, or excuse me, 2 or more level 5 light insect monsters, but you're not gonna summon it that way. You're gonna summon it this way, and I'm not gonna read this effect again because it's built into Rhino-service. You can Xyz summon this card by detaching 2 Xyz materials from a rank 3 or rank 4 insect monster you control. Obviously, this guy. Then the Xyz materials obviously transfer over, whatever ones are left over anyways. Once per turn, you can detach 1 Xyz material, then target 1 defense position monster your opponent controls. Return that card to the owner's deck. So basically, it is like a tiramisu, and again, this is where something like lose 1 turn would come in and be very handy. This guy's stat line is 2200, 1800. So for rank 5, it's not super great, but it's also like it'll definitely do. And then the second effect is once per turn, if this card on the field changes its battle position, or excuse me, if a monster on the field changes its battle position, you can attach 1 insect type monster in your graveyard to this card as Xyz material. This is good because obviously, like, your monsters want to change from attack and defense and vice versa, but you also have Xyz that force your opponent to like change their monsters. So, I mean, essentially you can constantly detach, send things back to your opponent's deck, and then hopefully you can just constantly be attaching your resources right back to this card so that it kind of has like an endless amount of resources. As long as you can keep it protected, it can do some work. And then the last card is Digital Bug, or the last 6C anyways, Rhino-service. This guy is rank 7. Here's a picture of it. And I saw this card earlier, and I was like, how the heck are they going to... I didn't know if this was part of an archetype. And then when I saw it, I was like, how the fuck are they going to summon a 7 if they're all 3s? But you can rank this guy up by using a 5 or a 6. So you can basically go from this to this to this. If this guy attacks a defense position monster, he gets piercing damage. That's his first effect. And then the second effect is, once per turn during each player's turn, you can detach 1 XC material from this card, destroy 1 face-up monster your opponent has, or excuse me, your opponent controls with the highest defense. And of course, that does not target because you do not actually pick the monster. This card just random, like it picks it. So I think their XCs are pretty good. I like the fact that they're accessible. I like the fact that they can rank up fairly easy just by detaching 2 materials. So I kind of like their XCs. Now their field spell, I'm not actually a fan of. Here's the field spell right here. They've got a field spell and a trap. I think the trap is good. I don't like the field spell at all. It's called Bug Matrix. It says you can only use the 2 effect once per turn. First effect is all insect type monsters gain 300 attack and defense. That does kind of make up for kind of their lack of attack. I think it's going to be more important on the XCs, to be honest, because like this dude at 2900 is kind of legit. Second effect is you can target 1 XC monster you control, attach 1 insect monster, 1 insect type monster from your hand as XC material. If I'm not mistaken, Hazy Flames had the same thing. It was like Hazy Pillar or something. It never amounted into anything. And honestly, I played Hazy Flames. It's not even like it's okay in that deck, but it just doesn't seem that good. Like it should have been in 2016. Like, come on, man. It should have just been from the graveyard. If it would have been from the graveyard, it would have been better. And even still, I don't think it would have been like OP or anything. I still don't even know if I would have played it at that point. This card, Bug Emergency, is actually really good because you can only activate 1 Bug Emergency per turn. The first effect says target 2 level 3 bug monsters, or bug monsters, 2 level 3 insect type monsters in your grave. Special summon them, but their effects are negated. Obviously, it's kind of like a weird mix between like Gotham's emergency call or like double-edged sword technique, except you don't have to worry about getting burned or having a monster face up on the field or anything like that. I mean, this is obviously just like a 1-card XC maker. Then the second effect says you can banish this card and 1 XC from your graveyard. The levels of all level 3 insect monsters you control become the same as the rank of the monster that you banished until the end of the turn. After you activate this effect, you cannot special summon monsters except insect monsters until the end of the turn. So again, none of this archetype to me seems like it's going to be splashable in anything else. Like if you're playing this archetype. I think first impressions, the monsters seem pretty good. Statistically, they're not that great, but I like the XCs a lot. I think the XCs are all good. I like the fact that even though the monsters aren't powerful, they all empower the XCs. And then I love the fact that the XCs are so easy. Like it's so easy to get to the 5 and the 7. You don't have to jump through hoops like you do with Raid Raptors, man. So let me know what you guys think. What do you think of these guys so far? Thank you for watching as always.